I'm Catherine Gannon, and I'm the founder of Gannon's, a commercial law firm servicing private companies predominantly, sorting out all of the issues they face with contracts, employees, directors and shareholders. A share buyback is a very, very little nifty manoeuvre that can reduce the amount of tax payable if you satisfy various conditions. A share buyback is when a company takes distributable profits, that's profits that it would otherwise have to pay out to shareholders as a dividend, but it uses those profits to buy back shares. Buys back the shares, and then everyone's share capital gets increased because it cancels the shares it's bought back. And the reason share buybacks are so popular, and we do a lot of them, is the selling shareholder, provided they satisfy some conditions, only has to pay capital gains tax at 10% on the proceeds he or she receives when the company buys back the shares. So it's a really good way of getting money out of a company, because that's one of the big challenges when you're running a company. You may well have made the profits, but how do you get those profits out to shareholders efficiently? Well, share buyback is one such route. You do have to satisfy some conditions for a share buyback. The main one being you have to have held the shares for 5 years. You have to be employed for business asset disposal relief. And there are some other conditions. But by and large, if you're an employee, director, and had the shares for more than 5 years, it's more than likely that we'll be able to bring you within all the other conditions. If you don't satisfy those conditions because you haven't had the shares for 5 years, but you have had the shares for 2 years, we put in place a different sort of arrangement. It's more complicated. It involves a holding company, but what it does mean is the selling shareholder can often take advantage of the 10% business asset disposal relief regime and only pay 10% tax as opposed to dividend tax or the higher rates of capital gains tax. So they're a very nifty little way of getting rid of shareholders you no longer want. Family arguments, shareholders who are no longer of benefit to the business. I can't say shareholders that are retiring because the revenue will draw the line at that, but you have to come up with reasons as to why they're no longer of benefit to the business. So there is a commercial rationale you have to have prepared. And if you come to us, we know what the revenue you're going to be looking for, and we can explore with you, will you have the commercial rationale needed? That goes with it. You've got to have a share buyback agreement, you have to have a special resolution from shareholders, you have to have clearance from the revenue, you have to file an election after you've done the buyback. So we work often with accountants who may well have advised the clients on the benefits of share buyback. We then implement and put in place the relevant documentation, or other clients were advising them on everything right from the beginning. It all depends, but we do work with accountants and other referrers. And they are fairly common if you've got the relevant circumstances. You've got to have some profits that you can use to pay out. And ideally, you've got to have had the shares for a minimum of 2 years, preferably 5 years if you want to go down the easier route. Another great advantage of a share buyback is the company may feel it hasn't got enough money to buy the shares in one lump sum. Well, that doesn't matter because the Inland Revenue will allow the company to pay in instalments. So we're often dealing with situations where shareholders have agreed to be paid back over a number of years as and when the company has built up sufficient distributable profits. So there's quite a lot of flexibility in play and quite a lot of detail that we're very well versed in and can explain to clients.